Yo, Virginia is cracking down on their gun bans and legislation, and it almost seems unconstitutional. Let's jump right into it because it's a lot to cover. So here are the 18 bills on the governor's desk as of right now. You see there's a timer, 5 days and 5 hours left. It's currently April 8th, so we got till April 13th, right? Where these decisions have to be made. So let's just go over quickly the 18 bills that they're trying to crack down on these guns, right? So let's go. First off, the assault weapons and magazine ban, right? So this bill bans the sale, transfer, manufacture, and importation of the most popular firearms in America, right? Semi-automatics classified as assault firearms under deliberately broad features based definition spanning 6 weapon categories. It also bans all standard capacity magazines holding more than 15 rounds. So if your gun, standard from the manufacturer, comes with a 20-round mag, automatic, not allowed. This is the single largest firearm ban in Virginia history, a direct assault on the Heller and Bruin, and makes Virginia the first southern state to enact an assault weapons ban. The founders are rolling in their graves. They sure are. This is unprecedented stuff. And this is why I'm covering it on my channel. So here's how the definition works. The bill does not ban firearms by name or model. It uses a feature-based test. A firearm becomes an assault firearm if it matches a specific combination of action type, magazine configuration, and physical features. So basically, any gun is liable if it falls under certain parameters. It don't matter what it is. If it falls under these certain parameters, it's done with, donezo. The number of features required varies by category. If your gun matches the formula, it is banned, regardless of what it is called, okay? So here are the 6 categories. You got category 1, fixed magazines over 15 rounds. So revolvers would be something that's a fixed magazine. They usually have 6, 8 rounds fixed, right? On the revolver, you can't change them, you can't take it out, it's fixed. Anything over 15 rounds with no additional features, the capacity alone makes your firearm banned. That is insane. Category 2, semi-auto center fire rifle. So a semi-auto center fire rifle plus a detachable magazine plus any one feature equals banned. This is the category that captures virtually all AR-15 platform rifles, since nearly everyone has a pistol grip and a detachable magazine, qualifying features, right? Pistol grip is one of the features. Threaded barrel, a threaded barrel, so you can put a silencer or a compensator on the front of your firearm. Boom, that's a feature now that cannot happen. A lot of weapons come with a threaded barrel from the manufacturer. Folding, telescoping, and collapsible stocks. So all of those joints that fold in and pop out, that could go different lengths depending on how you want it, donezo. Virginia doesn't want to see it. This is huge, okay? Second-hand grip or protruding grips below the action. So let's say you have a pistol and you add that little extra grip right there. No. Grenades or flare launchers. A flare launcher? Like, isn't flares for emergencies though? I can understand a grenade launcher, but don't you need flares like signal for emergency? I don't know. Category 3. Semi-auto centerfire pistols. That's damn near every pistol. I just want you to know that. Semi-auto is basically every pistol. Centerfire is basically every pistol in the modern day. I just want you to know that. Requires, okay, centerfire auto pistol, detachable magazine. Again, a detachable magazine. Hold on a second. A detachable centerfire, semi-auto centerfire pistol. That's this bad boy, right? My magazine just detached. My magazine just detached. Semi-auto centerfire pistol. Boom, right? Detachable magazine. Bow. It just detached, right? It just detached. It just detached. Okay, and any two features. What are the two features? Requiring two or more of the following features. Standard handguns like Glocks and SIG P320s typically have 0 listed features and remain legal. The two features threshold. Now, mind you, the reason why this website mentions Glocks and SIG P320s, because those are very popular on the streets right now. And what are they? They're detachable magazines. They're semi-auto, meaning that you gotta pow, 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 pow without having to manually, cock back the chamber every time. You just boop, 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 right? It does it for you, semi-auto, right? Full auto would just be pull the trigger and it keeps going, right? Okay, now with that any two features, second pistol grip, okay? We already discussed that. If I decided to add a detachment with a nice little handle right here, not allowed, bow. Magazine attaching outside the pistol grip, okay? So, like, I'm gonna say like Call of Duty, on Call of Duty, they have the double mag attachment and you literally see the tape around. That's what they talking about. You can't do that. Boom. Okay. Barrel shroud, a handgun encirculating the barrel, allowing grip without burning. Okay. I don't know if they have that on handguns. I've never seen that on a handgun. I know that to be very popular on rifles. Threaded barrel, designed to accept a suppressor or compensator. I already told you that. So again, buffer tube or stabilizing brace, common on AR pistol builds, okay? I'm not really well versed in that. I have a regular pistol, a regular pistol with good aim and proper ammo should do you justice. If you need anything more, that's when you get the assault rifles that they're trying to ban, right? Any characteristic of like kind, the catch-all, gives regulators broad discretion to expand the definition without new legislation. Be mindful of what you're doing now that you're in Virginia, because this shit is insane. And we're still only on the first out of the 18 bills. Category 4, semi-auto shotguns, plus any one of these features equals banned, right? Only one feature is needed to trigger the ban. A much lower bar than pistols. Folding, telescoping, or collapsible stocks, all right? Thumb hole stocks. Detachable magazine capability. This alone qualifies. Shotguns like the Sega 12 are banned. Detachable magazines, again, detachable magazines. If you tuned into this video from my TikTok that said, hey, stay tuned for more information regarding these bans, and I was like, yo, they're trying to ban everything but your great grandfather's double barrel shotgun. This is why I say that, because even shotguns, detachable magazines not allowed. So most of your 12 gauges that take multiple rounds and then you stick it at the bottom and then you could just let off with the shotty, it's over with. Now you need a boop, boop, like a pump, down, pump, boom. What do pump shotguns hold? Like six rounds? You get like a pump, you know what I mean? That's not a detachable magazine. You get like a double barrel, it's not a detachable magazine. Those are what they want you to have, right? Fixed magazines exceeding 15 rounds on the shotgun. Seems like 15 rounds is the standard now. They just put the ban on the 30, right? They just put the ban on the 30 saying you can't have more than 10. It looks like they changed it to 15, okay? Any similar characteristics, again with the same thing like the pistols. Category 5, revolving cylinder shotguns. Okay, no feature test, no additional characteristics needed. The revolving cylinder design itself triggers classification. It's a shotgun and the action is a revolving cylinder. It's an assault firearm. I actually have to go and check for myself, what does that look like? I like this guy's videos.
Hickok 45, loading up my Nerf gun. The bolt needs to be closed. That's the way it works. You want the bolt closed, which it is. Fumble around with it. A little bit awkward in some ways.
Oh, wow, yeah. That's a detachable magazine right there. That's the magazine.
Tube,
it's detached from the shotgun, so for sure, they're not rocking.
equals
It's a revolving,
16.
but it's
So
also
called a
detachable. They
12,
not
16.
rocking. Yep.
So you
Got
load
you.
the two, and this.
But I got to see how he shoots
Uh-oh,
that.
my sight went out, didn't it? There we go. How's that?
That was
And
loud.
you know what? Let's start out smoking some pot with this thing. It's a 12.
Wow.
Oh man, did you notice? That is great. I got 3 big, pretty good sized pots
Did
out.
it
'Cause they're all
revolve at
dry.
all?
And since we have a shotgun, I knew it'd be a good day to smoke pot. And someone built a pyramid of 12 ounces down there.
No, wait a
It's
minute. No,
gone,
wait a
man.
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I think each time you spin it, it gets a few shots in each spin. That is fire. I ain't gonna hold you. That's cool. Shit, that's banned. Oh man. Yo, category 6, modified firearms. Any firearm modified after the fact to meet any of the above 5 categories is automatically classified as an assault firearm. You cannot buy a legal rifle and add features to make it qualify. Doing so converts it into a banned weapon and subjects you to the same penalties. This includes adding a pistol grip to a featureless rifle, installing a detachable magazine on a shotgun, or attaching a stabilizing brace to a pistol. Basically, if the manufacturer didn't make it and it's not already on this list, don't do it. That's what they're saying. Is your gun banned? Real world examples. AR-15 for sure. AK for sure. Rugers. And this is the Mini 14, bro. Mini 14 is semi-auto. It's like, yo. Sega 12 shotgun. Glock 19, it'll work. SIGs, it'll work. But remember, standard is 17 rounds, so you can't even buy it. They can't even sell it to you. You got to get a special edition California made, just like my Echelon is California compliant, even though I'm not in Cali. California compliant is one of the hardest things to get. So if you get California compliant, you're basically good in every state until Virginia started doing this nonsense. You know, any bolt action rifle, obviously, that's what they want you to have. Bolt action and lever action. If you don't got the lever action, lever action, they don't want you. Magazine restriction is 15 round. Any magazine drum belt or feeding device holding more than 15 rounds is a large capacity ammunition feeding device. After July 1st, it is illegal to import, sell, barter, transfer, manufacture, or purchase any 16 plus round mags in Virginia. So if you want to do this, get them joints now. Get them now. You have until July. If you legally own an assault firearm before July 1st, you are grandfathered. But the grandfather clause is far more limited than most people think. Keep and possesses your grandfathered firearm, legal. Use at shooting ranges and on your property, legal. Transfer to a licensed dealer, legal. Sell to a buyer outside Virginia, legal. Pass to immediate family via inheritance, legal. Sell to any Virginia resident, illegal. Transfer to non-family in Virginia, illegal. Import additional assault firearms into Virginia, illegal. Manufacture new assault firearms, illegal. Basically, if you don't have it already, you can't get it, okay? That's basically it. You can't pass it on, don't have no loopholes. Anybody under 21, grandfather clause does not apply. What else? Penalties, 3-year total ban upon conviction. The individual is prohibited from purchasing, possessing, or transporting any firearms, not just assault, for 3 years from the date of conviction. One misdemeanor charge strips you of all gun rights for 3 years, all firearms, all types, everything. Learn your rights, stay on top. They're trying to crack down for whatever reason. It makes no sense. The government exempts itself, of course. Law enforcement officers, active duty military, government agencies, and licensed manufacturers producing for law enforcement military contracts are all exempt. Semi-auto carry ban on public property. We've got carry bans in Virginia, guys. Virginia was an open carry state. Not no more. Destroys Virginia's open carry tradition overnight. Expands the assault firearms carry restriction from a handful of blue localities to a statewide blanket ban on carrying or transporting the most common modern sporting rifle, pistols, and shotguns on any public property. The old law only applied in specific anti-gun cities and counties. The bill removes the limitation entirely. It removes the requirement that the firearm even be loaded. Even an unloaded, cased rifle with a single band cosmetic feature cannot be transported in public. I just don't understand. I just don't understand. If it's unloaded and it's in a case, you're not allowed to transport it in public. How do you get it from point A to point B? Somebody make it make sense. Everybody doesn't have a garage. Everybody doesn't have a warehouse where you could just pull your car into. I know for damn sure if you go to the gun range, because you can still go to the gun range with these firearms if you're grandfathered in. So how do I make it from my car to the gun range? Because that would be public, right? It could be private space, but depending on where I'm parking, it could be transporting on public grounds. How am I expected to transport my firearms? If I'm going to out of the state and I want to take my firearms, let's say I'm going to Florida from Virginia and I want to take my firearm to Florida with me. How do I now transport it from my home to the airport without going to jail? I'm just giving logical things that people do on an everyday basis. How do we go about that if I can't no longer transport it in a case, unloaded? I'm just confused. Make it make sense, y'all. What else? Semi-automatic centerfire rifles. So, plus any of these features, you cannot carry it in public. Qualifying features, only one needed. Fixed magazine holding more than 10 rounds on a semi-auto centerfire rifle. You cannot bring it into public. So the Mini 14 is over with. Again, lever action, bolt action rifles. So they like folding telescopic or collapsible stock, standard on nearly every AR-15. Cannot carry it in public. So we're supposed to have a stockless AR. Thumbhole stock. Pistol grip protruding conspicuously beneath the action. Second hand grip or protruding grip. Grenade launcher. Threaded barrel again. Semi-automatic pistols cannot be carried in public with any of these features. Fixed magazine holding more than 10 rounds. Detachable magazines with over 20 rounds. Okay, so now it's a 20 round ban. So assault rifles is 15, and then we got 20 rounds on the pistols. Folding or telescopic mechanisms. That's like if you want to turn your pistol into one of them, like half AR when you got the little folding stock. Thumbhole stock, second-hand grip, threaded barrels, ability to accept a magazine past 20 rounds. You cannot carry those in public. Semi-automatic shotguns, same thing. With the ability to accept detachable magazines. Fixed magazines exceeding 7 rounds or revolving cylinders, not allowed in public. Okay, where is public property? The bill defines prohibited locations as any public street, road, alley, or sidewalk, any public right-of-way, any public park, and any other place of whatever nature that is open to the public. That catch-all phrase could encompass parking lots, which is what I said. Depending on where you park, you will be going from a public land into the gun range. So make it make sense. This doesn't make sense. These laws don't make sense. This is a massive expansion from the prior law, which only applied in specific locations. All right. So, before versus after, what will change? Open carry AR-15s on public sidewalks. Used to be legal statewide. Now it's a Class 1 misdemeanor. Open carry AR-15 on public sidewalk was legal. Now it's a Class 1 misdemeanor. Transporting AR-15s in vehicles on public roads was legal. Now it's a Class 1 misdemeanor. How do you transport your weapons? Carrying standard Glock 19 openly. It was legal. It's still legal. Hunting with covered firearm on public land. It's still legal. Except now you're exempt. It's technically not legal, but you're exempt. AR pistol with brace at public parks. It was legal. Now it's a class 1 misdemeanor. So you're looking at class 1 misdemeanors if you're carrying out in public in Virginia right now. Just so you know. Unless you have standard everything. I don't want to customize nothing. I don't want no fancy bells and whistles. Right? Unless you just want the standard. It's over with. Next thing you know, they're going to be like, yo, you can't have any more sites. No red dot sites. They might as well, right? Everything else they banning. They might as well say, hey, no red dot sites. Only iron sites. The way they operating. Like, this is some BS. Let's go to the next one. Under 21 handgun and firearm purchase license. So anybody 18 years or old can vote, sign contracts, serve in the military, but they cannot buy a gun. Okay? This creates a majority new regulatory framework. Age requirements, you must be 21 years or older, no exceptions. Applications must apply in person at the VA, state police, or local enforcement. Look at that. That's crazy. Fingerprinting required, submitted to FBI. Training required, you need to do that. That's always been there. That's always been there. Processing up to 45 days, that's always been there. Background checks, always been there. Validity, 5 years from issuance. What firearms are affected? Any handgun, any rifle, any shotgun, got to be 21. For the direct purchase ban, any handgun and assault firearms, got to be 21. Basically, if you are not 21 or older, don't think about getting a gun in Virginia. It's not happening, bud. Firearm industry civil liabilities. Who's covered? Any person or entity engaged in the sale, manufacture, distribution, importation, or marketing of a firearm-related product. This is extremely broad. The law is specifically engineered to punch through the federal PLCAA shield, Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, that has protected the industry since 2005 by creating vague state law standards. Virginia creates violations that trigger PLCAA's predicate exception. I can't even talk right now. It's crazy. Stripping gun makers and dealers of their federal immunity. The industry calls it a deliberate strategy to make it so illegally expensive to sell firearms in Virginia that business leave or go under. And I believe this. Every firearm industry member shall establish and implement reasonable controls, but the bill does not define what specific procedures satisfy this requirement. There are no safe harbors, no compliance checklists, no regulatory guidance. Whether your controls are reasonable is left to courts to decide, right? Required reasonable control areas, prevent sales, prevent loss and theft, ensure full compliance, prevent auto sear installation, no Virginia Consumer Protection Act violations. A gun shop sells legally to a buyer who passes a background check. That buyer gives the gun to a prohibited person who commits a crime. The shop could face a lawsuit arguing its reasonable controls should have flagged the straw purchase risk. There is no compliance certification, no government checklist, and no way to know in advance whether your controls are reasonable enough. And this is the problem, guys. They're making the people who are providing the sale responsible for somebody who's deciding they're going to break the law later in the future. How would they know that? That's like if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and I use this example all the time when people say, oh, I don't like guns, they're not safe, and I don't understand why you need them. I use this one example every time, but we're going to use it for this. What's stopping somebody from going to Home Depot or Lowe's, buying a chainsaw, and going Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the street? Nothing. You could go to Home Depot and Lowe's and buy a chainsaw right now. No background check needed, no age requirement needed. You just go, got the bread, and leave. You get what I'm saying? Now, if they decide after they go and buy this chainsaw, I want to turn this joint into Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Home Depot is not liable for that sale. That's not how the shit works. So why are FFL, law-abiding gun salesmen, having to be responsible for other people's personal actions outside of the sale? Make it make sense. Okay, ghost gun and unserialized firearm bans. You already know they're not really rocking with the ghost guns. This has been an ongoing lawsuit back and forth with ghost guns in multiple states. So I'm not even surprised about this. We don't really have to go up into this, but Virginia already had a plastic firearm ban. Now they brought in the language to cover more scenarios. Any plastic firearm containing less than 3.7 ounces of electromagnetically detachable metal in the barrel, slide, cylinder, frame, or receiver that doesn't generate an accurate X-ray image. Any non-detectable firearm that after removal of all parts then a major component is not detectable by screening devices at airports, government buildings, schools, and correctional facilities. This is very specific, which makes me wonder how much is going down at these motherfucking places, because this was oddly specific. Like, how much 3D printing is going on? The ghost gun ban. This is the entirely new section of the law, the core ghost gun ban. It creates 4 distinct criminal prohibitions. All right? Here are the 4 prohibitions. The sale and transfer, import, purchase, sell, or transfer a frame receiver unless it's deemed a firearm under federal law and has a valid serial number, which means damn near all 3D printed shit, because they don't do serial numbers from what I understand on 3D printed guns unless, you know, it's super by an FFL, you know, salesman. C, possession. Knowingly possess any firearm, frame, or receiver not imprinted with a valid serial number. Manufacturing, assembling, importing, sale, or transfer of any firearm not imprinted with a valid serial number. And again, the sale or transfer of a firearm you manufacture without a federal license, FFL, or that you know what was made by an unlicensed person. All right. Yeah. Intimate partner firearm ban expansion. SB 160, HB 19 dramatically expands who can have their Second Amendment rights stripped over a misdemeanor conviction. Gun control groups call it closing the boyfriend loophole. Under existing law, the 3-year firearm ban applied to those convicted of assaulting a spouse, ex-spouse, or co-parent. Clear, legally established relationships. Now, a court decides whether your dating history qualifies. Okay, the bill expands who can trigger the loss of a firearm rights under Virginia domestic assault prohibition by adding 2 new loosely defined categories. Intimate partner. Any individual who within the previous 12 months was in a romantic, dating, or sexual relationship with the person, determined by a 4-factor test: length of relationship, nature of relationship, frequency of interaction, and type of interaction. If it was a previous partner, somebody I'm not even with anymore, if they were into some shit, now I'm not allowed to have a gun? No. That I don't get down with. We're not even together no more. Cohabitant. Any individual who currently lives with or within the previous 12 months lived with the person. Again, same thing. Within the previous 12 months. If we don't live together anymore and I want to go get me a gun, I should be allowed to. This doesn't make sense. I don't care what that other person was up to. We probably don't live together because of what they was up to before. You get what I'm saying? So make the shit make sense. We got to make it make sense. Protective order firearm surrender. Okay. So they're doing firearm surrenders. Category 1, protective order subjects. Anyone subject to a final permanent protective order under Statute 16.1-279.1, family abuse, or 19.2-152.10, stalking. Also includes equivalent orders from other states, U.S. territories, or D.C. Anyone convicted of domestic violence, misdemeanors, assault, and battery of a family or household member. Prohibition lasts 3 years from conviction date. I mean, I agree with that. Like I said, if you have a history of domestic violence, you should not be having no guns. That's just common sense. 48-hour court certification. Within 48 hours, the prohibited person must file a written certification with the clerk of the court form provided. Red flag law expansion. It's a massive expansion of Virginia's already unconstitutional red flag law, and it guts what a few safeguards existed. Under current law, only prosecutors and law enforcement could petition to strip someone's firearm, and they had to conduct an independent investigation first. Now, the door is blown wide open. Okay? They add new vague risk factors, eliminating the mandatory investigation requirement and giving 3 additional court-type jurisdictions. This is gun confiscation on demand. Your ex-girlfriend, a disgruntled family member, a therapist, or a school administrator can now directly petition a court to confiscate your firearms. Do you hear this? An ex-girlfriend, a disgruntled family member, or a school administrator or therapist can now directly petition a court to confiscate your firearms. This is insane. Without any law enforcement investigation first. The initial order is issued ex parte, without your present, without you knowing, without you being able to defend yourself. Based on one side of the story. Your guns are seized before you ever see a judge. This is the textbook definition of due process violation. It sure is. Mandatory firearm storage. The government is now telling you how to store your own property in your own home. When you have minors in the house, it has to be stowed away. The statute explicitly requires that the person knows a minor or prohibited person is present. This is actual knowledge, not should have known. The prosecution must prove the gun owner actually knew. However, the bill does not further define knows, leaving interpretation to the courts. A minor is anybody under 18. Only if the minor is not authorized to use or possess a firearm under the statute 18-2308.7, minors authorized for home use, hunting ranges, or military service do not trigger the requirement. Anybody who's a convicted felon, persons educated, mentally incapacitated, persons under protective orders, or those convicted of certain domestic violent offenses and other prohibited under Virginia and federal law, you automatically are triggered, right? Firearms may be stored, loaded if both conditions are met. Stored in a device with a combination lock, coded lock, or biometric lock. No minor or prohibited person is an authorized user of that lock. Quick access biometric bedside safe or combo lock pistol vault can hold a loaded ready firearm as long as no restricted person's fingerprint or code is programmed in, right? Basic keypad, keyed lock boxes require unloaded storage or separate ammunition. Can you imagine? They expect you to keep it unloaded in a safe. You know the many steps you got to do to get yourself ready. If there's a real intruder, a real danger, that's too many steps. I got to go to my safe. I got to open it up. I got to load my gun. I got to, cock the gun back. Now we good to go. Like that's a lot. I could already be done by then. Polling place and election site gun-free zones. They want you disarmed when you show up to vote. I mean, I don't see the problem with that. I'll be honest with you. So we could just go to the next one. Campus and state building firearms ban. One word change. That's all it took to disarm every student, professor, and visitor at every public university in Virginia. I don't even think you could take guns on college campuses in DC or Virginia, or Maryland either. So I'm also okay with this. I don't think you need to have guns at a school. Why do you need a gun at a school? I know that there's going to be people who don't, but if your school has proper security procedures, you shouldn't have any guns at the school. You know what I'm saying? There should be enough security on deck for people to respond and be feeling safe. I know Virginia Tech had some school shootings at one point, but you know what? I changed that. I think community colleges don't have those resources. So yeah, colleges, campuses definitely should be allowed to have some guns to a certain extent. Yeah. The ban applies to the Capitol, Virginia, Capitol Square, any building owned or leased by the Commonwealth, any office where Commonwealth employees perform official duties. That's kind of like DC. That's kind of like DC and Maryland right now. Any government official owned building you can't, or property, you can't have a gun there. Same thing with museums, schools, anything that has a lot of people, you're not allowed to bring your gun. Mental health hospital weapons ban. Okay, you probably shouldn't, but mental health hospitals, but because this covers any hospital that provides mental health services or developmental services, and nearly every hospital ER in Virginia provides mental health. Wow. So basically you can't bring your gun into a hospital because they say mental health hospitals, but that considers any hospital that provides mental health services, which would be any ER room. Okay, wow, so no guns in the hospitals, guys. Visible handgun and vehicle penalty. Well, I know I've told you this on social media, but I'll reiterate. You now have to have a permanent custom made lockbox in your car. Like you have to go figure out some kind of auto shop that'll install a lockbox permanently in your car that can't be removed to hold your gun. Like that's crazy. They even went as far as saying, because I watched I watched the hearing live, and they went even as far as saying like, oh, if I have my glove box that has the lock feature on my glove box, they were like, yeah, nah, we not rocking with that. That's not allowed. So no visible handguns in your vehicle. That will be a $500 fine, and your vehicle will get towed. So don't play around with that. Concealed carry reciprocity gutted. Your Virginia concealed carry permit used to be honored in 35 plus states, is about to make it worthless outside the Commonwealth. This bill replaces Virginia's current policy of recognizing all valid out-of-state concealed handgun permits with a subjective substantiability similar test, and hands the Attorney General, an elected anti-gun Democrat, sole power to decide which states make the cut. When Virginia cuts a state, the state cuts Virginia back. The result, your CHP becomes a Virginia-only permission slip, while your constitutional right to self-defense stops at the state line. And that's literally how Maryland is. So to me, that's very small. I know a lot of people like, oh, that sucks, but let's be honest. Most Americans don't leave their fucking city, let alone their state. So this shouldn't really matter to most people. Now, I know specifically for Virginia, if you're in the Northern Virginia area, that would be the DMV, you probably will be affected by this because maybe you didn't go out and get your Maryland or DC license, and now it's not going to be respected both ways, or vice versa. Maybe you're a DC or Maryland resident and you didn't get your Virginia license because you already knew Virginia, had reciprocity with Maryland and DC if you have the license. So it was like, why do it, right? Now you're shit out of luck, bud. You better go get that VA non-resident license, okay? CHP Training Overhaul. Obviously, you need to do more training. There's more pathways to take. At the end of the day, any NRA or USCCA course was standard, right? Any course covering 3 required topics is now the standard. It doesn't have to be NRA or USCCA. Who can teach? Anyone. No certifications required. Content requirements: concealed handgun self-defense use, Virginia handgun laws, storage techniques. Mandatory buyback confiscation blueprint. They're doing a buyback program in Virginia, y'all. This is how fucking crazy this is getting. They're doing a buyback program. HB 702 is the infrastructure bill for the future confiscation it forces every single law enforcement agency in Virginia, county police, city police, town police, and sheriff's office to build, staff, and operate a permanent firearm surrender pipeline by January 2028. They call it voluntary, but ask yourself, why does the government need a statewide firearms collection apparatus if they're not planning to use it? Once SB 749's assault weapons ban takes effect and grandfathering ends, this is the infrastructure that will process mandatory turn-ins. The pipeline is being built now while the bans are being signed. I'm telling you, a buyback program is not good. Ban categories of firearms, build a statewide collection infrastructure at every law enforcement agency. They don't have to pass confiscation all at once. They just need the pieces in place. This is the step 2 of the bill. This is what they're saying. They're offering $50 to $200 gift cards for firearms worth $500 to $2,000. That's not a purchase. It's a government subsidized theft with a smile. Yeah, that is actually crazy. Hate crime firearm ban, a misdemeanor, not a felony, and you lose your gun rights forever. HB 1015 creates the first permanent firearm ban for a misdemeanor offense in Virginia law. Get into a bar fight and a prosecutor argues you picked the wrong person for the wrong reason. Lifetime ban. No physical injury required. No felony conviction required. Just a misdemeanor assault with an alleged bias and motive. Proven by a prosecutor's theory about what was in your head and your Second Amendment rights. So let me ask you, if I have a gun and I choose responsibly not to take it to the bar, and then in the bar, I get into a fight, a little scuffle, You telling me I'm not allowed to have my gun no more? I responsibly didn't take it. I could have took it here, shot a nigga, boom. But I didn't. I was being responsible. Still got into a tussle. But I was being responsible, and you still gonna punish me for that. That's crazy work. I'm gonna tell you that right now. That's crazy work. Gun Violence Prevention Center, the final piece of the machine, a permanent taxpayer-funded anti-gun propaganda office embedded in state government that no future governor can shut down. Takes the existing Office of Safer Communities and codifies it into a statute with expanded powers, tens of millions in annual funding, and a legislative mandate to produce research that, surprise, will always recommend more gun control. It controls the data, funds the studies, and evaluates its own programs and monopolizes federal grant money. Listen, bro, but we have to stop. We have to stop punishing law-abiding citizens. I get that you want to try and stop the guns and stop getting people to follow the law and get them properly. But have we not learned anything in history? When you make shit illegal, it makes people want to go do it more. When you make shit legal, people do it less. People don't overindulge. People actually be responsible because they don't have to do the irresponsible shit and feel like they're bad. They're getting away with some shit. You know what I'm saying? Stop punishing legalized people. Stop punishing the folk that are actually following laws. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Make sure you update it with all the news going on in your city. I'm in the DMV area, so I'm going to keep updating people on the laws going on in the DMV. But until next time, peace.